Hello, my name is LoG and welcome to part 3 of my Chord Arpeggio power-up. Let's get started. Okay, let's do a real quick recap on the chords from the last part. I'm assuming that your picking pattern is pretty comfortable at this point, so make sure that that is consistent and comfortable. The chords that we went over last time looked like this: 3 repetitions, 1 repetition, 3 repetitions, 1, 3, 1, and then when we got here, we were holding this 4 times. But for this part, with the actual part, we're going to play this chord once and then every chord afterwards once until we get to the top. Okay. Now there's something different happening once we get to the top and we restart the whole figure, but I'll get to that when we get there. So this chord, same chord that we left off with, right? C sharp, 1, 5, flat 7, and then another flat 7 with the B string. 1 repetition. Next chord, D sharp dominant. So 1, normal 3, flat 7, and then the open B string is the sharp 5. Okay. E major 7, same exact one from earlier, right? Now you can use a different fingering because we are coming to this chord from a different chord shape. So if you want to do this chord like that and then literally the same fingers, but that ring finger just up a fret, that's possible. I'm still going to do what I've been doing because it's comfortable. And that's with the pinky right there. Now this is where things change slightly. The next chord from here looks like this. You can call this E minor 7 with 3 in the bass. There's a bunch of names for this chord, but that one works. So that would be the 3, the flat 7, the 1, and then the 5 of E minor. I don't really know if that's how the chord is functioning in this track, but it doesn't really matter. That's the shape though. G, D, E, open B string. 1 repetition. Then the final chord, at this point, we should be just simply going back to the first chord of the whole thing and then repeating, which we will, but this time we won't. We're going to this chord, okay? This chord takes place of the first chord of the whole pattern every other time. So I'll show you what I mean. This chord is like C sharp sus. It would be G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, open B. So that's like C sharps 5, 1, 4, and then flat 7. Okay, and it looks like this, like a stack like that. This is how I'm playing it. If there's another way that you want to play it, maybe like this or like that, whatever it is, I'm just going to stick with this one. It's just the easiest one for me. Now, this one is the beginning of the phrase again. It's just a variation on the first chord. So this is back to normal. 3 repetitions right here. Then from here on, it's exactly the same. 1, 3, right? 1, 3, 1, and then we get back to this low chord that starts the ascent one more time. That's 1 repetition of the dominant, 1 repetition. Now, instead of going here the second time, that's the chord that we just ended with, it's going to be the same thing, but the D string or the ring finger on the D string instead of the pinky. So instead of G, D, E, B, it's now G, C sharp, E, B. So this is like a C sharp minor 7 flat 5 chord with the flat 5 in the bass. So that would be like flat 5, 1, flat 3, and then flat 7, right? 1 repetition there. And then from here, we start back to the actual beginning and everything starts over. So it's just like a B ending and an A ending if you want to think about it, okay? So this is what the final part will be. I'll just run through every chord. So 3, 1, 3 reps, 1, 3 reps, 1, then watch this, 1, 1, 1, first ending, 1 rep, and then 3 here. This is the variation on the first chord, and then 1, and then everything is the same. 3, 1, 3, 1, ending, so it looks the same. 1, 1, 1. This is the second ending, which has this chord with the ring finger there. And then from here, 1 repetition. Now we start over to the actual first chord of the entire thing. So it just has a different ending the first time. So for this part, though, we are not going to do that whole thing. We're saving that for the final video. For this part, we're simply going to run this ascent, and it's going to look like this. The chord that we left off with, once, dominant once, E major once, then this chord with the pinky up here, 12th fret, once, and then we hang out here as this hypothetical first chord of the whole pattern. But for this part, we're only going to do it twice. So 1, 2, then we do the ascent one more time. 1 there, one there, and then the other ending chord. And then we do the normal beginning chord twice. And then we do it all over again. So this part will sound like this. Once, first ending, twice. Second ending, twice. Over and over again. That's what we're doing. That's the first ending. Second ending, twice here. And then we restart the whole thing. So that will cover the entire thing, and you can start maybe piecing everything together to prep for the final video, but those are all the chords. Keep in mind what I talked about before. Make sure every string is loud and clear, especially that open B string, because that's a vital note for this chord. Another thing I wanted to talk about that will make it easier when switching these chords. So naturally, when we switch chords, what do we want to do? Let's say we've got this chord, and we go to the next one. What do we want to do? We want to get every finger down at the same time, right? Bam, next chord, bam, next chord, bam, bam, bam. Everything just down at the same moment at light speed. And sometimes that can be kind of difficult depending on the chord. But because we are playing a particular picking pattern, we technically do not need every single note of the chord down at the same instant, because we aren't playing all of the notes at the same instant, right? We're staggering the notes. We're playing this note here and then that one, then that one, then that one. That's how picking patterns work, right? So let's say I play this first one, right? That's that C sharp, G sharp, B, and then open B. So what are the notes that I absolutely need in the very beginning, right? I definitely need the root, this A string, because that's the very first note. And then I probably need the the G string B right there. Naturally, you might think, I'm going to put the chord down, so I need these two, bam, bam, and then the middle finger. I'll do that. But in reality, you don't need the pinky for just a little bit. The first notes that you absolutely need are the A string and G string, because those are the first two notes. So you can actually, if there's a chord that you're playing that's really hard to get all the notes down, I would make sure that you're getting the A string notes and the G string notes first before you worry about everything else. Now, I wouldn't do this if it's unnecessary. If you're already getting, bam, the whole chord down at the same time, that's fine. But if there is a chord that's giving you a problem with getting all the notes at the same time, like for me, it's this. That one right here. It's hard for me to get, bam, all those notes at the same time. So when I play this, I focus on the A string, G string, and then the D string, right? Because I absolutely need those two strings down in the beginning. So you can almost see my hand like forming the chord as I'm playing it. Watch this. See that? So coming from here, so it's pretty quick, but I'm doing this, and then I'm going A string, G string, and then worrying about the D string afterwards. So if that helps you kind of clean up your chords, definitely try that. Make sure you get the A string, G string first, and then worry about the D string, whatever the millisecond later, right? And don't hit the open E string like I just did right there. So that might help as you're working through this whole thing. So anyway, that pretty much does it for this whole exercise. Again, the part that we're going to do right here, we're just working on this ascent, working on both of those endings, those different variations. And then for the final video, we'll run the entire thing. So this track is going to run from 50 to 110, and we're just doing this ascent, first ending, then again, second ending. That's all we're doing, and then we start the whole thing over. So again, 50 to 110. Make sure your part or your picking pattern is comfortable. Make sure the chords are memorized, and everything should be smooth sailing. So let's get on to that track. All right, that does it for part 3. All we have left to do is to play the entire thing over that final track. Keep in mind all of the chord voicings and also start to practice connecting the 2 halves of the chord progression that we've talked about, because that's going to be the entire thing that we're going to do in the final video. The final video will run from 50 to 120 BPM. We're actually going to hold it there a little bit longer than usual just to see if we can maintain that shape. If you guys enjoyed this type of instructional material, feel free to check out my Patreon at the link below, and I'll see you guys in the final part.